Hey guys, so in this video we're going to talk about direct and inverse variation. I'm going to apologize in advance. I have a habit of saying indirect variation instead of inverse. So if you hear me say indirect variation, just know that I mean inverse. But I'm going to try my best to say inverse variation. Alright, so for inverse and direct variation, you need to know these two formulas. These are not really word problems at first. It's just that they have words so that you understand what you need to do. So if you look at the red, you'll know you'll use this formula, the inverse formula, because it'll say y varies inversely with x. If it says directly, you're going to use the direct variation formula. You'll understand what I mean when we do this first example. So let's get started. Look here at this one. It says y varies directly with x. So if you look at the formulas that I told you about just a couple of seconds ago, really, which one do you think we're going to use? Again, it says y varies directly with x. Y varies directly with x. You're going to use this formula. So whenever you have a word problem, you're always going to write the formula. The formula we're going to use is the directly formula. Now, in the formulas, there's always an x and a y. There are going to be two variables. Sometimes it might be t and s. It doesn't matter. There's always going to be two variables that vary with each other, and there's always going to be this k. This k stands for the constant of variation. All of these problems have the exact same steps. They're always going to tell you how they vary. They meaning the two variables. They're going to tell you how the two variables vary, directly or inversely. I was going to say indirectly just now. And then it's going to always give you an example where they give you the numbers of each variable, and they're always going to ask you to find one given the other variable. Every single time. You just have to understand how the problems are set up. So again, every problem that I have seen dealing with this stuff right here, you will be given two variables, x and y in this case. You will be given an example where you have both x and y, and you'll be asked a question to find one given the other. So here's our first example, varying directly. So I wrote my formula down. Y equals kx. Always look at the pair they gave you. In this case, the pair that they gave me is y equals -4 and x equals 2. That's my pair. Substitute your pair into your formula every time. Substitute your pair into your formula. So right here, instead of y, I'm going to write -4. And then instead of x, I'm going to write 2. Okay, so now that I've substituted the information they gave me into my formula, because my formula was y equals kx, I substituted in instead of y instead of x. I'm going to solve for k. Well, that's not that bad. When you're looking at it, you have -4 equals k times 2. Well, How would you get k by itself? Yep. So what you'll do is divide by 2. So when you divide both sides by 2, you'll get that k equals, in this case, -2. Now, you have what k equals. K is -2. The question did not ask you to find k. The question asked you to find y. This k is your constant of variation. That means that it's the same no matter which x and y pair you have. So the same k I have here will be the same k I have here. It's the constant. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to now, instead of using my given pair, I'm going to use my half pair with this constant that I know is the same for this pair and this pair. This constant is the same. So I'm going to use my new constant that I have. I actually know what it is. At first I didn't know. I'm going to use my constant with what they gave me to find what I don't know. Here we go. So again, your formula is y equals kx. That's my formula. I'm going to substitute in my information. In this case, I'm trying to find what I'm missing now. In this case, do I know y? No. It asked me for y. Do I know k? Yes. K is the same for each pair. So in this problem, k is -2. So right here, I'm going to put -2. Do I know x? Yes, they told me. X is -6. So now I have y equals -2 times -6. What is -2 times -6? Yes. That, my friend, is my answer. Again, just to recap our steps. We read the problem. It says y varies directly with x. I looked at my formulas and I tried to figure out which formula I was going to use. In this case, since it says directly, I'm going to use the direct variation formula. The direct variation formula is y equals kx. I wrote it down. Always write your formula down. Once you know your formula, you use the pair they gave you, substitute it into your formula to find k. You use the k that you found, substitute it in your formula with your half pair to find the other half. That is it. It's the same for every problem. Let's go on to the next one. You're like, Miss Frazier, you're saying it's that easy. There's no way it's that easy. It is. The only thing that changes is the formula you're going to use. Depending on the formula you use, that determines the steps. The steps are the same. Here we go. It says y varies inversely with x. Miss Frazier told me it's going to be one of these two formulas. Y varies inversely with x. Inverse variation formula. Y equals k over x. So, the first thing you do, you write the formula down. Y equals k over x. Now that you have your formula down, you go ahead and substitute in your pair to find k. Once you find k, you'll then take your half pair and your k to find your other half. Same stuff we did. The only thing that changes is the math, because since now we're doing inversely, we have to kind of use the inverse formula. I'm just saying. Here we go. That's my formula. My formula is y equals k over x. Now, my pair is 40 and 16. So, in this case, instead of y, I'm going to write 40. Instead of x, I'm going to write 16. Okay, we got to solve for k. Once we find k, we're like halfway done. Alright, so I'm solving for k. K is being divided by 16. The opposite of division is... Yep. Multiplication. So instead of dividing it by 16, multiply it by 16. When you multiply it by 16, those go bye-bye. You are left with 16 times 40 over here. Do the math. I hope it will be 640. Bam. You know what k is. What do you do once you know what k is? You take your formula. You substitute in now. You substitute in the k you found with your half pair. You already used this one. That's how you found what k was. Now you're going to use your half pair to find out what the other half is. Alright. So, do I know what y? Oh, yes, I do. In this case, y is negative 5. Do I know what k is? Yes, I do. K is 640. Do I know what x is? No, I don't. That's what they're asking me to find in this pair. K works for every pair. So, I plugged it in. Here we go. I'm solving. Negative 5 equals 640 divided by x. What do you do? Well, you're dividing by x. The opposite of dividing by x is multiplying by x. Multiply both sides by x. Over here, we have negative 5 times x. Over here, those went bye-bye and we're left with 640. How do you get x by itself? Divide by negative 5. When you divide by negative 5, you say au revoir, and all of a sudden you have x equals, and over here 640 divided by negative 5 is negative 128. I'm going back to my problem. It asked me to find x. I found x. X is a negative 128. I am done. That's it, guys. Seriously, that's really all you have to do. All you have to do is read the problem. It's not really a word problem. There's no context to these problems. You read the word problem, figure out, is it saying directly or inversely? Look at your formulas. Figure out which formula you're going to use. Once you know the formula that you're going to use, you write the formula down. Substitute in your pair. Always start with the pair they gave you. That will help you find k. Once you find k, use the half pair they gave you with the k that you just found, and it'll tell you what the other half is. That is it. That is it. That is it. So, the natural question to ask me is, how does it get more complicated? It doesn't mathematically. The only way they will trick you is by actually giving you a word problem that makes you think. If you're afraid of thinking, turn off this video right now. Thank you for not turning off the video. I'm just saying, everyone, thank you. You should not be afraid of thinking. This is math. It's going to make you think. It does not mean that you cannot do it. It's just going to make you think. Whoa, you see all these words? People freak out. I don't know why, but people freak out. Here are the words in a word problem that you can do if you really understand what I just did in those first two examples. This word problem is not hard. it just makes you think. The math, once I write it down, you're going to be like, yeah, it wasn't that bad. Well, I'm hoping you'll be like that. Not really psychic. I'm working on those abilities. I had a teacher that told me I can do anything if I put my mind to it. Get it? Psychic mind. Okay, sorry. Here we go. The time it takes to fly from Los Angeles to New York varies inversely as the speed of the plane. If the trip takes 6 hours at 900 kilometers per hour, how long would it take at 800 kilometers per hour? Again, you're freaking out because you're reading a problem and you're like, But every problem is the same. The first thing you need to do is figure out if they're talking about inverse variation or direct variation. What does the problem say? Inversely. It says it varies inversely. Varies inversely. You're going to use inverse variation right here. So now, y varies inversely with x. What is varying with each other up there? It says the time it takes to fly from Los Angeles to New York varies inversely. So the time it takes varies inversely as the speed of the plane. So the time to fly varies inversely with the speed of the plane. It's always the beginning varying with the end. Always. So in this case, y is varying with x. The time is varying with the speed. And that's exactly what I'm going to write down. I'm going to make a little note to myself. Time varies inversely with speed. If you could read that. There you go. Time varies inversely with speed. Great. So my y and my x. So y equals k over x is my inverse formula. But instead of y, I'm going to put t for time. And instead of x, I'm going to put s for speed. If you do not like to change up your variables, do not freak out. Just leave it x and y, and then just remember later that y is time and s is speed. I like to change my variables up. Here we go. I already forgot what I was doing. Oh, okay. I'm with you. So, t equals k over s. Now, once you figure out inversely or directly, you go ahead, you write your formula down, you substitute in your pair. There is a pair they told you here. They told you a time and a speed, that's your pair, and then they asked you for one given the other. That's your half pair. Yes, right here it says 6 hours at 900. That's your time they gave you. That's the speed they gave you. That is your pair. So, right here, t equals k over s. Instead of t, I'm going to write my time was 6. Instead of s, my speed was 900. From there, I do the math. I'm dividing by 900. Well, my friends, how do you get rid of division? You multiply. So, if I have 6 equals k over 900, all I need to do is multiply both sides by 900. Good riddance. Right here, 900 times 6. I'm thinking about it. I'm doing the math in my head. You can't see that. Okay. So yeah, 5400 is your K. What do you do after you find your K? You use it with your half pair. So my half pair is in my question always. Is always in my question. So my half pair in this case, how long will it take at 800 kilometers? What did they tell you? Did they tell you the T or the S? What did they ask you for? The T or the S? Okay, they said how long would it take. So they're asking me for the time, and they told me the speed was 800. Alright, so I'm going to write the formula down. T equals K over S. I'm going to substitute in any information that I know. Do I know the time? Nope, I do not know the time of my half pair. Do I know the K? Yes. The K is the same for all of them. It's 5400. Do I know my speed? Because S stands for speed. Do I know it? Yes, it is 800. Guys, this is like the easiest math ever. 540. Why do I keep saying 540? I don't know. 5,400 divided by 800. 6.75. Time is 6.75. You have to tell me the units. What is time being measured in this word problem? Hours. So that, my friend, or friends, you could be having a math party right now and everyone's watching my video. That is the answer. Again, if you compare the work I wrote here to the work of this second problem, it's the same work. It doesn't matter what word problem I give you. The work is the same. You really just have to make sure that you understand what it's talking about. Is it talking about inversely or directly? It'll always say one or the other. Write the formula down of whatever it's talking about. Then figure out, okay, what varies with what? Just read the problem a couple of times. Figure out what varies with what. Once you figure out what varies with what, instead of Y, instead of X, put what they're talking about. If you want to write out the word every time, time equals K over speed, do it. No one's judging you. Especially, well, your teacher is, but she's going to judge you on if you get it right. I'm just saying. And I said she because, never mind. Sorry. It's late. The jokes are just flooding my head. Alright, so here's the next problem. Same stuff for the most part. Do you understand what the problem is saying? Here we go. The number of hours required to do a job varies inversely as the number of people working. If it takes 8 hours for 4 people to paint the inside of a house, how long would it take 5 people to do the job? Alright, gotta figure out life. Is it varying inversely or directly? Read the problem. You tell me. It's varying inversely. Now, what is varying inversely? The number of hours required to do a job varies inversely as the number of people working. The number of hours required to do a job varies inversely as the number of people working. The number of hours is varying with the number of people. So, hours, people. They talk about something up front of varying inversely. They talked about the hours up front. They talked about something in back. They talked about the people in back. Bam. Alright, so hours varying inversely with people. Y varies inversely with X. So in this case, Y is hours, X is people. I'm going to write my formula down. Y equals KX. In this case, I'm going to have hours equaling K people. K over people. So, hours, time. I'm just going to write time. You can write whatever you want. It's your work. K over X. I'm going to write people. So I'm going to write P for people. Alright. Now, this is your formula. Substitute in your pair first. So, they told you a pair. They told you some hours and some people together. Then they asked you for one of them as they told you the other. So first, let's look for our pair. Which part of my problem did it talk about hours and people? And they actually told me how many hours and they told me how many people. Right here. 8 hours for 4 people. So instead of time, I am going to write 8. Because that's the time they told me. Instead of P, I am going to write, what am I going to write? 4. So, I have my equation. Now the math starts. I have 8 equals K over 4. I'm dividing by 4, so I'm going to multiply both sides by 4. These skedaddle. 8 times 4, 32. So now I have 32 equaling K. Bam, I solve for K. Once you solve for K, all you have to do now is go back, use K with your half to find your other half. Look at the problem. They told me hours and asked me for people, or they told me people and asked me for hours. But they told me one half of my problem. One half. They told me a half pair. Okay, so in this case, I'm reading it. I told you, it's always in the question. How long would it take 5 people to do the job? What did they tell you? They told you it took 5 people. Well, no, sorry. They talked about 5 people here. So, since it took 5 people, that's what they told you. So, they're asking for how long. Okay, so write the formula. T equals K over P. Substitute in your information. Did they tell you the time? No, ma'am, no, sir. Did they tell you the constant? They did not, but you found it to be 32. The constant works for every pair, even your half pair. So instead of K, I'm writing 32. Did they tell you the people? They did. 5. 32 divided by 5 would give you your answer. So time is 32 divided by 5. 32 divided by 5 is 6.4? I don't know. You have a calculator? Do it. Hopefully I'm right. If I am right, you have to tell me the units. 6.4 what? Apples? 6.4 babies in a nice basket for the people, for the little animals to deliver to the houses. What? 6.4 time talking about hours. 6.4 hours. That is your answer. Good luck practicing. And if you have any questions, feel free to comment and ask.